I'm Ina Fried with CNETnews.com here outside the Nokia Theater in downtown Los Angeles, where earlier today Microsoft launched its Windows Server 2008 operating system, along with several other server products. A few moments ago, I had a chance to sit down with Microsoft Chief Executive Steve Ballmer and talk about virtualization, IT spending, the economy, a number of topics. One thing we didn't talk about on camera was the company's pending acquisition try for Yahoo. Earlier though, off camera, Steve Ballmer did tell me that basically this is a process and Microsoft is going through the steps it needs to, and that these things tend to take time. Thanks for taking the time, Steve.
Pleasure.
Microsoft is launching several key business products today, some of the core things that you guys sell to big customers. How concerning is it that these are being launched amid some growing uncertainty over the overall economy?
Well, in a sense, I don't think it's an issue at all. Economies are going to be good and economies are going to be bad. Innovation is going to drive forward. And the truth of the matter is, I think most of our customers anticipate potentially some weakness, particularly in the U.S. economy, but haven't seen it yet. And if you look globally, I think there are many, many very healthy economies around the world, and certainly close to 2/3 of our business comes from outside the United States. So, on a global basis, the perspective is a little different. But these are great products, and they can help people do more with less if this turns out to be a with less economy in terms of some IT budgets.
The new products that we're announcing today fit squarely in the sweet spot of taking advantage of technology trends and helping to solve what we think are some of the important customer opportunities that you've talked to us about.
One of the pieces of this launch actually comes a little bit later in the Hyper-V virtualization layer. Obviously you guys are coming a little bit from behind in this area. How far do you get with Hyper-V and how much work is there left to do?
Well, we've been in the virtualization game for a few years now with our virtual server product, with our SoftGrid application virtualization technology, with our virtual PC technologies. But there's no question that today the market leader in terms of server virtualization would be VMware. I think with Hyper-V we come a long way. But in some senses, it's more about the market coming a long way. Less than 5% today of servers are virtualized. We think there's a real opportunity to democratize virtualization, to bring down the price, the cost of virtualization technologies, to make it simple enough for people to use, to integrate it with the rest of what goes on in data centers from an operations and deployment sense, and distinguishing ourselves from VMware in all of those areas. I'm sure they're going to continue to get growth too, but when you look at what Hyper-V does, we know we have to be competitive on performance and high-end scenarios, but we're also going to democratize this market.
From Vista and Office to System Center and Forefront in the management and security area, from the client, the server, the edge, the management of physical systems and virtual systems now through System Center. Our BizTalk technologies for facilitating application integration, the backbone of our service-oriented architecture strategy. Silverlight, and important work we're doing there to facilitate rich user experience integrated with the browser. We're doing pioneering work with groups like the Beijing Olympics and Major League Baseball, all moving ahead nicely.
How do you make the balance of trying to have your applications work the best with each other and interoperability?
Well, we're always going to put a lot of emphasis and interest in getting our stuff to work well with our stuff. What we articulated last week was a set of principles that let other people also interoperate well with our stuff. Many of those principles we have followed in fact or in principle or mostly in the past, but there's no fundamental conflict between having our stuff work well together and enabling other people to do it. There's no question the principles we announced last week, the amount of documentation we have to produce, it's a big piece of work. I mean, for years and years, we've produced API documentation to give a level of interoperability. This protocol documentation that started out as part of our regulatory framework, it takes a lot of effort. Many, many man-years went into the 30,000 odd pages that we put up last week of formerly trade secret material that we now are giving a kind of a free license to, and there's much more to come.
When I talk to young people these days especially, I like to remind them that global poverty will not be resolved by hitting the delete button. Will not solve climate change by hitting backspace. From the very beginning, I was astute enough to recognize that the power of the personal computer and the many faceted software programs that drive it and the explosive reach and power through the internet world would fundamentally alter our time and our world.
We've improved a number of areas of performance, boot up, file compression. We've improved battery life. The BitLocker technologies, we've moved forward in ways that people thought were important.
We're currently in compliance with the European decision of 2004. That's what the commissioner announced last year, and this was a fine for activities that occurred in advance of or earlier in the Commission's view from that compliance. Our announcement last week certainly doesn't hurt us on the regulatory front, but it was primarily designed to also be consistent with what we're hearing from our customers.
How would you characterize Microsoft EU relationships at this point?
I would say, we are a good citizen. We attempt to be a good citizen in all the jurisdictions where we do business, and as long as we're a successful company in the U.S., in Europe, elsewhere in the world, we're going to have regulatory oversight.